Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter. I am joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Pinkava. And today we have a special guest. We are joined by Devrie Metcalf. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hi.
And this week's episode is sponsored by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can go to our website, chickenladyfiberarts.com, and April's promo code is PIK deprogrammed 20, and that is a bit of a nod to Carrie Smith and her new channel. So yeah, and you can get lovely yarns. Like this one is called Blueberry. It's a part of her Psych collection, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And she has a lot of new yarn lines coming out. Her mystery grab bags will be out soon. So that is 2 skeins for $40. And yeah, go ahead and check out her stuff.
Yes, I'm excited about her mystery grab bags. I'm not that adventurous, but when it comes to yarn, I mean, I trust her. She's got good colors, so I'm excited. And as Anne mentioned, the code is PIK to program 20, and that's because our friend Carrie Smith, who was formerly on a different channel, has started her own. And so make sure that if you like her content, I did an interview with her last summer, if you guys remember, but she started her own channel. So go subscribe, like, comment, give her some love.
Yep, Deprogrammed with Carrie Smith.
Yes. And then Anne, don't you also have our giveaway this week?
Yes, that we're doing a new giveaway this month. Wow, lots of intros today. Sorry. So we are giving away another copy of Cody Schlegel's book, Odyssey Tale, with this beautiful matching mini set.
Very pretty. Who's the mini set from?
It's called Blue Sky Fibers. I'm actually not familiar with them, but I saw these in a yarn store and I had to have them. But then I decided that they went well with the book. So
thanks, Anne. That's an awesome giveaway. And you can enter to win that between April 9th and April 20th on YouTube, Instagram, and Rumble. And so that's all of our housekeeping. And now let's talk to our fabulous guest, Devrie, who is a knitter, a designer, an author. So tell us
even
a little bit
shoemaker.
about yourself.
I'm quite impressed.
A shoemaker. I missed that one.
I actually currently have 4 Etsy shops. I help my grandmother. She
man, I only found 2. I feel like I'm down.
So she crochets these blankets, and I told her I would help her sell, and she's got like 80 of them. So I'm like, you know what? Let's create an Etsy store for you. And then I make leather earrings. And then my kids, I don't know if you could see the wall here. My kids have collected those little mini brands for years. And then finally we're like, I think we're kind of done with them. Do you want us to just like get rid of them? And I'm like, no, those are expensive. We're going to do something with them. So they made like keychains and things like that. And I told them, well, this will be part of our commerce class for school, and you guys can learn about marketing, and you can learn about what it takes to run a business and your profit margin and how to sell things. And so I run 4. It's overkill.
That's funny.
I'm the type I'm always learning. I started knitting in high school. I'm kind of self-taught. I wasn't doing anything big other than scarves. And I really did not start knitting until after my first couple of kids were born. And I felt ambitious and decided to knit a pair of socks as like my first real knitting. And I actually loved it because it had so many different techniques in it that I felt like I accomplished something. It was nice. And since then it became a kind of, I just loved doing it. And we didn't have a lot of money. And so it was a way to make things for my kids that they needed that we probably couldn't afford. And then my daughter was born, and she wanted all these American Girl dolls that are so expensive, and the clothes are expensive. And so I started knitting doll clothes for her. And because there's no way I can afford all of these clothes, not just for what she wanted, but let's be honest, when you have a kid, a young girl, sometimes you get into the things that they're into because you're like, oh my gosh, these tiny little clothes or these tiny little dolls. So I started making doll clothes, and it slowly just turned into anytime someone had a baby shower, I was making something, whether I was sewing something and adding a little knitted something on it, or pretty soon I'm just knitting everything. I just had a baby shower last weekend. And so I knitted something, and I loved it because I could knit something, create a pattern. You know, you get your baby showers are great to give gifts because everyone always goes, oh, it's so cute. They knit up so quickly. Yeah, they knit up quickly. It's a little bit of an instant gratification because you get to learn new techniques, but it's quick. You're not spending months and months and months on it. And I loved it. So I think that's, you know, I kind of tried my hand at different things, at shawls and hats and stuff like that. But I have to say, I really love knitting the toys because they're quick, they're simple. And, you know, I have a crocheted baby that my grandmother made for me, and I still have it. And I haven't seen her since I was 8. And Joni, my daughter, played with this toy, and I still have it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. She crocheted it and she attached all the little plastic, the face and the hand. And it was something that I loved being able to see her playing with it, knowing I played with it. And so now I make these toys, and I have friends who they're like, all of my babies played with this toy, or all of my kids have played with this. And so I just love knitting the toys. They're so much fun.
That's awesome.
So what kind of made you switch from just knitting the toys to making the patterns?
I bought Susan B. Anderson's book, The Itty Bitty Toys, and it's where I kind of started knitting them. And I loved the patterns, but I'll be honest, I hate sewing. And I'm a sewer. I mean, I started sewing at 9, and I got my first sewing machine at 9. And I mean, I sewed my wedding dress. I sewed my prom dresses. I made everything. So I sew. But when it comes to spending all the time to knit all these tiny little pieces, and then you have to sew them all together, and then you have to weave and hide the ends, I was just not in love with that process. Yeah. And I really loved being able to create something. And I would think of something. I'm like, okay, I want to knit this. And I would go and I would look in wherever I could find the patterns and be like, okay, is there a crochet or a knitted one? And I couldn't find anything that I loved. So it turned into, my goal was to knit items with as little sewing as possible afterwards. Very little sewing afterwards. In fact, this little doll right here, this is knit in one piece, and this is knit in one piece. So you sew the head on to the body and you're done. And that was my goal when I started making toys, was I wanted to create easier patterns that could introduce maybe a few new little techniques that people might not have learned before, but it was simple and easy, and you could do it without having 100 different pieces everywhere that you had to sew together.
Yep. No, I definitely appreciate that. And I'll show off a little because I made one of your toys this week. He's adorable and I love him.
So
and
cute.
I'm very sad that I have to give him away. But I have a baby shower coming up, like you said.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, I really appreciate that because I have knit other toys before, and it's like, okay, so you have this round tube of an arm and you're supposed to knit it to the side of the body, and how's that supposed to work? But yeah. But yes,
I love that little guy. I loved him.
Yeah, and everything from the little ruffled, here, I'll have to show it off a little bit. The little ruffled detail on the cape, the little rounded bat butt. It's a good doll.
I know, so it can sit down. Oh, I love it when they get to sit. They're so cute.
But yes, it's an awesome pattern.
Well, thank you. I love it when people say that they like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I usually do the crocheted ones, but you've got me with the no sewing, little sewing, because that's what I hate about all of them. Like if I have to sew on more than like a couple pieces, it's not going to happen. I'm not into it. So
it's so funny because we spend so much time crocheting or knitting, and then you're like, nope, that's where I draw the line. I have spent hours crocheting this or knitting this, and I'm like, really, another hour and a half to sew everything on? I'm done. I'm out.
Oh, I know. It's kind of like with seam sweaters too versus seamless ones. I'm like, give me the raglan sleeves. This is all knit in one piece.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
and,
totally.
Yeah. And even, I mean, like you said, there's not a lot of sewing on, but I'm like, you mean I gotta sew on the ears? Man. And look, I've done embroidery before, and I've done nice embroidery before. This belt is not nice embroidery. That's on me.
Well, you know what I love about them though, is that when you give a gift like that, when you give a sweater as a gift or a doll or a dress as a gift, immediately someone goes, oh, the fit isn't perfect or it's not exactly. But when you give a toy, people never, I can tell you, people never look at, oh, this could have done better. They always look at, wow, this is talent. This is pure, like, how did you create this from one strand of yarn, essentially one strand of yarn? And this is amazing. So I feel like there's so much more forgiveness when it comes to toys. People look over details that when you're looking at a sweater, you're like, oh, those don't kind of line up right, or the stripes are not exactly even, or I can see the line where you joined. You know what I mean? People tend to forgive so much more, and they're so cute. The toys are so cute that it's just like, how can you not love it? Flaws and all, how can you not love how cute it looks?
Right. And you have an entire book of toy patterns that came out.
I do. I just recently put out a book. These are all the little toys that you can knit on it. I'll show you. I have them all sitting right here. So there's a dolphin. There is a sandcastle. The cutest little bucket and shovel. A shell.
Wow.
Obviously a little towel for the beach. And this is the star character. Her name is Joni, and she has a removable mermaid tail. And all of these cute little characters are in the children's book that comes with the knitted book. So you can create the characters and then follow along with the story all the way through the book.
That is so cute.
Yeah, it's adorable. So did you write the children's book also, or is that something that you just paired with?
No,
Okay,
my daughter and
wow.
I wrote the book. So I have plans. Each one of my kids have already come up with their own stories. And so it's my job to create the knitting patterns and the characters for those stories. So
wow,
That's
you're
awesome.
ambitious.
And, yeah, but
I'm a little bit of an overachiever, I think.
did you self-publish, or did you do it through a company? I mean, how does one even do that? That's amazing.
I thought about self-publishing, but I will be honest, I am not very good at promoting myself. I always am just like, yeah, this is what I do. You just kind of do what you got to do, And so I decided to go with a publisher because I was like, you know what? I'm going to need help. I'm going to need help with this. And I actually found a great publisher here in Nashville, not too far from where I live. And he helped me walk through the process. And now there's always points of where you can learn and do better. And I hope that I get the opportunity to make the next one and it will be just even better. But we found someone who would do the drawings. I had someone do them first, and you learn as you grow, and they were just, I cried for a week when she sent them back. So
Oh no.
it's been a process. I think this process has been 2 years at minimum, at least 2.5 years of, okay, can I do this? Is this really going to happen? Can I find someone? I called several publishers, even publishers that have published knitting books for toys. And all of them said, if you don't have a following, we basically would come to you for an opportunity. But if you don't have a following and you don't have a big audience, we're not even going to consider you. And it was like door slammed in my face, one after the, I had a whole list of publishers. I was just calling down the list and one after the other. You haven't ever sold anything? We're not going to risk it. And so this publisher, he said, you know what? I don't do knitting books. I've never done them, but I'm intrigued. Let's do it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. I'm really, really thankful that he was willing to take a chance on it. I really am loving this book. And my husband just keeps telling me, he's like, just keep plugging away. Don't worry about it. Do what you do. You've got, plenty of time. He just keeps saying, you've got plenty of time to hone in on your craft and to make it more perfect. And one of these days, somebody will notice, or somebody will think, and then before you know it, you'll be like, wow, where did this go? This just took off. And I keep, telling myself, sure, maybe that'll happen. But if not, I have loved creating. I mean, I wish I could sit here and show you all the things that I've made, but the truth is when I make something, I'm making it for someone with their personality in mind, and I give it away. So I have some things I don't. This cute little toy here I made specifically for my sister. A little stack of donuts with the whipped cream on top, and it's the little ring toy. So this is for her little baby, and I'm going to give it away. And someone's going to say, oh, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, this is what I do. I make things and I give them away to people. And if you know what, if that really is all that ends up happening, then I guess I've been successful. I've been happy that I've been able to give these personalized gifts to people. And there you go.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you don't just do the toys either. And toys are adorable, but you do hoods and blanket. You did the full mermaid blankets before. Flipping through your patterns, and yeah, bags and even some shawls, even though you said that wasn't your favorite. A lot of variety in your patterns.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's fun. I mean, it's fun for me. When you're knitting, I think it's fun to learn to do a whole bunch of different things, and you learn to just there's so much that can be done and so much to learn and can progress, and I think it's fun, but I have been told that I'm weird for liking a 80-year-old's craft. But I'm like, you know what?
People say that.
I don't think it is an 80-year-old's craft. They've been knitting for as long as we can look back. People have been knitting. So, and they didn't live till they were 80 when they were knitting.
Well, and for them to be as good as they were, they had to start early, because you don't get to that level of craftsmanship in a couple of years when you're old. It's not how it works.
You don't. And you know what I love about this craft is that it was something that started as a necessity. It was a need. It was a craft that began as we need to make sweaters, and this is the only way right now that we have the products to do so. And those sweaters, they would be passed down. When a mother made a sweater for her husband, it got passed down. And if it was too big for her kid, she took it apart and redid it to make it adjustable for her child. And then it just got passed down. And then they learned to fix them, and they learned to repair them when they got holes in them, or they took the yarn out completely and made something new. They repurposed it for something. So this craft is it's got so much history to it. Why wouldn't you want to learn to do as much with it as you possibly could?
Yeah, it's a really pretty book too.
It is. It is.
Yeah, the pictures are beautiful. I mean, even the picture on the front cover, to get this to look like this, let me tell you, you got to be creative when you're coming up with good product photos. I created a whole beach scene on my front porch. My husband came home and was like, what are you doing? I bought
this is our new lifestyle. Don't you like it?
Yeah. I'm like, this is just what it is. And I had like little palm trees, and he's like, how are you getting them to stay up? I'm like, oh, they're just stabbed in an apple, cut in half, covered in sand. He's laughing at me. I'm like, you got to get that photo. You got to get that adorable picture on the front. That's what draws people in.
That is cool. And
that
also, with what you said with marketing, that I don't know, I find for me, I don't know if you feel this way too, but it's like I've already spent so much creative energy in the product. It's like, it's out now, I don't want to think about it. It's like, no.
Oh yeah.
You gotta keep going. You gotta keep promoting. You have to.
And you know what? It's hard. It's hard because you put your soul, if you've created something, if you've come up with the pattern, you've created it, you've knitted it, and you got to knit it like 3 or 4 times to get it just right. And then you're going over the pattern a million times to make sure everything is correct. And at that point, you're exhausted. And then when you put it out there and it's not received well, or there's nothing, it's like nothing. It really is like this really hard, like internal death of something that you've created. And you kind of have to take a step back and be like, man, do I want to keep putting myself out there every time for the potential that this does nothing? Or, you keep hoping that it's going to be received well, and it's a piece of you. It's kind of hard. It's a hard thing. I don't think people realize that when you create those patterns, for anything, for sewing, for knitting, for crochet, for anything, that it's a part of you. and it's taken mental, you know, focus from other things in your life in order to do it. Because as a creative brain, when I think of something and I've got an idea for something, it doesn't leave here until I've created it.
Right.
That means it,
Yep.
yeah, that means it's taking space in my brain and I can't get rid of it until it's out. And so at that point, it's a part of you.
Right.
For sure. And I mean, I don't know if Anne's had it happen, but I remember last year, I think, I don't remember which pattern, but I put one of my patterns out and I was thrilled about it. It was so great. And like one person bought it. And I was like, what? Like, how can you guys not love this as much as I do? And I know that everybody has different tastes and whatever, but yeah, it's so hard to put yourself out there and then to like keep going. Like, because not every idea you have is a grand slam, even though you might personally think it is.
Oh yeah, you think it's gonna just skyrocket.
Oh, yeah.
And you're waiting for that notification that you just sold 100. And I think it's so hard too, because we see some people creating something and you're like, I could make that better, and they sell hundreds and hundreds of them, and you're like, the pictures don't look good. You're like, what is going on? What's going wrong? And it's such a hard thing to just want to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think the knitting community is hard to get a foothold in because there are certain names that everybody knows, and if you're not one of them, even you could have the most fantastic patterns, you know, written with photos for every step, and but you're not that name, and so people don't find you, and that makes it hard. It's yeah, because I've had it happen where I've seen people do something similar to mine, and they're like selling tons more, and I'm like, but well, I know why people don't find mine. It's got to do with my name, but that's besides that. It's really difficult.
It's hard. It's challenging, and I've done this for so long. I've been making patterns for so long, and I can't tell you how many times you see someone who makes something, and to me, because I've been doing it so long, I can look at things and know, oh, I know how she made that. I could make that without the pattern.
Right.
And then you see, I'm not gonna lie. Full confession, I have a few Etsy stores that for a little while I followed, and I would like keep track of how many sales they were making in a certain period of time, and then like calculate how much money they were potentially making. And I would just like cry myself to sleep. Like, why are they doing, I mean, I'm talking like selling 1,000 patterns a week. And you're like, what am I doing wrong? That I'm getting one sell every 2 or 3 weeks from this pattern. You know what I mean? And it just is so challenging. You keep thinking, well, I'm doing it just as well, and my pictures look just as good, and my products are cute. I mean, I think they're cute. And so you're like, what am I doing? This is so hard.
Yeah, we've all been there. I know I certainly have. But it is hard. It's hard to, and like you said, I don't think it's talked about a lot, but people put in all of yourself into something and then it doesn't work and you're like, the heck, man, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. And you know, it's always a good post-apocalyptic life skill, as like people like to say nowadays. So you know, you're ready for anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But how long has your book been out? Is it fairly new?
We finished and published it in November. I think it was like November 19th when it finally got off of the printing and then showed up at my front door.
That's exciting.
Cool.
Yeah,
And,
so it hasn't been
where
too
can
long.
Yeah, and where can everyone find it too?
So right now it's in my Etsy shop. My publisher and I are in a little bit of a, you know, at odds because he is very old school and wants it to be in every retail shop. But I have called around, and that's not what people want these days. The knitting shops, they don't want to have it on their shelves or the inventory, or if it doesn't sell. And so I told him, I said, look, my Etsy shop is just good enough for it. I think it will be just fine there. And I am hoping here in the next month or so to start selling kits. Okay. And so this one will hopefully be a part of a kit. So you can buy the book and the yarn and everything that you'll need to create the items all in one stop.
Oh, fun.
That's nice. You know, sometimes when you look at a project like that, having to source everything is kind of overwhelming. So,
especially when you
people
can't,
who are newer.
Yeah, and you can't buy these eyes necessarily by themselves. You got to buy like a pack of 10 or 15, and then you're like, what do I need 15 of these eyes for? So unless people just want to make tons and tons of them, sometimes it's easier just to say, look, this person's already got them. I'll buy them from them.
Well, that's cool.
Let's see, we talked about your Etsy store a little bit, but you also, I noticed that you have a blog, you have a YouTube channel where you do different tutorials.
I do. I had a blog. I started a blog a long time ago when blogs were really popular. But with 4 kids and 4 young kids, and I started homeschooling about 9 years ago. So it was one of those things that I tried to keep up with it, but I don't like to flower things up. And so it was just, here's pictures. Let me tell you what I did. And that was it. And back when blog posts were really big, that's not how they were doing. And so I do have a blog, but right now I'm using it mostly as like a landing point where you can get to anything. I have a YouTube channel where I do some tutorials, and I'm currently working on teaching my daughter to knit. And I've been recording it because I've noticed that sometimes when you're learning a craft, it's easier to watch someone who's never done it before learn than to watch someone who's been doing it for years, because it comes so easy to them. And I, of course, when I'm knitting, I don't think about the ways that someone might struggle or how they're holding their hand and how that might make it challenging for them to wrap the needle around and pull it through. But when I'm watching my daughter, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how a beginner would be holding it, because they wouldn't be comfortable. And so I started teaching her, and we got the first episode out, and she's been working on this scarf. I've been doing it in stages with her, and she and I talked about learning to make a blanket with the squares, and each square is a new technique. And so she would start doing the knitting, and then I would say, okay, now we're going to learn the difference, going back and forth in a knit purl and the type of patterns that you can make in a knit purl. We're going to learn to do some yarn overs and decreases. And so making each square to learn a new technique. And then at the end, she's got a blanket with her journey of knitting and how she's learned and what she's done. So I've got big plans for it, but life sometimes doesn't always let you do exactly what you want. It's sometimes it just is like, we got a plan of our own, and you're going to probably follow ours a little more.
Yeah, no, that the way you're going to teach your daughter how to knit a blanket is actually the co-op class I'm teaching this quarter.
That's so awesome.
We're doing, and it's so funny because I'm watching these girls, and most of them knew how to do the knit stitch. And some of them knew how to purl. Very few of them knew how to read a pattern. And so like working with them, and I have one girl who holds her needle, like her left needle like this. And I'm like, what are you doing with that? You can't hold it like that. But it's because it is so natural for those of us who've been doing it for so long. Like I do have a hard time showing them how to do some things, just because it's just what I do. And so like I pulled up videos in class, and I'm like, no, look at this girl. See how she's doing this like this? Because I'm like, last week I tried to teach them how to do the waffle stitch, which is where you yarn over, you knit a couple stitches, and then you pull the yarn over your stitches.
Mm-hmm.
They acted like I was speaking a foreign language. Like usually I send them with homework. Last week I was like, never mind. There's no homework. Don't do anything.
There's no hope.
Think about it. Don't do it. It was bad.
Yeah, just walk away and let it,
Well, they
let's
were
start
all so
over.
frustrated. I was like, I'm not going to make you do this at home and be so upset by yourself. Like, but it's watching somebody new, because I think my story is kind of like you. I knew how to knit when I was young, but I didn't really pick it up until I was in my 20s or 30s. And so I've always kind of known how to do it. So trying to teach somebody who has no idea, it's like, I love my class, I love my students, but sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell these girls what to do? Like they're like doing these crazy things, and I'm like, so I like your idea. I like your idea of the channel.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I've taught older women. We had a group at church that we taught, and then I've taught younger kids. My nephew wanted to learn last summer, and of course his mom was like, isn't he too young? I'm like, no, No, he's not too young. And it was so cute because he never sits still. He is always moving. And we were up there for a while. And after we left, we came home, and the next day she sent me this video, and he was sitting still and he was knitting. And she goes, he hasn't moved in 20 minutes. And I was like, yes, he's got something that he can focus on, something that he can do. And it was so cool. And every time I go up there, he's like, Devry, what am I doing wrong? What am I miss? And I'll knit a few stitches or a few rows just to kind of get him back on track. And I'm like, you're doing just great. Just make sure that you put the needle in this way. And I try not to give too much. I try to like dumb it down as best I can, just to little steps, little movements. Try not to, do too many instructions at one time. And they catch on, and it makes your patience get a little bit stronger every single time. And it's really kind of fun. It's really fun to do.
Oh, that's really cool. So you're teaching your daughter how to knit. Do any of your other kids do any crafty things, or is she the only one that's interested?
My oldest son wanted to learn to crochet, and so I bought him a kit, and he crocheted a hacky sack and a little stuffed rabbit. My daughter likes to knit. She is actually working on, I saved all their baby blankets. So she is sewing I made each of them a blanket with their baby blankets, and she is learning to sew hers. So, she sometimes will come in and be like, Mom, I want a new dress. Can I make a new dress? And I'll say, yeah, you know where the fabric is, go get something. So she does that. All of my kids actually are somewhat crafty, and it's kind of a force. I don't know if they love it, but every Christmas, instead of buying each other gifts, we put everybody's name in a hat, and they have to draw it out, and they have to make the gift for their sibling. They're not allowed to purchase anything. And because I've spent years of, accumulating craft projects that are craft supplies that I haven't used, they'll just come in my craft room and pull some things out. And we've had, oh gosh, one year there was a torpedo made with popsicle sticks. One year they made a tic-tac-toe board with the shrinky dinks and a bag that everything goes in. And so our tradition is that they make gifts for each other. And we've had some pretty awesome ones. A snowball fight with yarn pom-poms.
That sounds
all
awesome.
in a bag. So they have this just full of yarn balls that they can do a snowball fight in the house. So they're crafty, but we'll see when they get older if it if it translates into their adult life, or it's just something that I force them to do and they put up with it.
Right.
That's funny.
Well, I guess that's all part of, that you homeschool your 4 kids too. So that's part of hey, learn to do things, learn to make things, learn to.
Yeah. It's fun. It's kind of fun to have the opportunity to be able to help them learn different skills that might not be their favorite, but will maybe introduce them to something that they love.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good outlook. I keep trying to teach my kids how to knit or crochet. I've got one that'll make chains now, but we haven't progressed past that point yet. But I'm still hopeful. They're still kind of small, so. But I like the idea of the making things, because I think everybody in general just accumulates too much, and so why not make do with what you have and that's a really great tradition. But
yeah, my daughter last year, or I think it was the year before that, my oldest son really loves to fish. And for Christmas that year, she's like, I chose him, and what am I going to make for him? I have no idea. So we ended up going to Hobby Lobby and buying one of those blank wood boxes. And she came home and we found a picture online, and we drew the picture. We didn't draw it. We transferred the picture onto this box, and she wood burned a picture of a guy pulling a fish out of a river on this box for him. And that's what she gave him for Christmas. So we do buy things, when we need to do that. But that's something that he can have for a very long time. And it's a skill that, no, it was not perfect. It did not look, like, award winning or anything, but it's something that she can say, yeah, I've kind of done that. And throughout the whole thing, she got this more confidence about doing it. And you could tell where she started and where she finished. Everything seemed a lot easier and nicer. And now there's times where she's like, hey, I want to make my friend this gift. Can I do that wood burning thing again? And I'm like, yeah, you sure can.
So your main shop is Made by Devry. It's on Etsy. There you can find her book. Both, I believe it's the same listing, right? For the knitting pattern book and the children's book that it goes with.
Yep, they come together as a set.
Awesome.
And I plan to make more, so get ready.
Great. Yeah, so check out Made by Devry on Etsy. We'll put a link in the description.
But yeah, that's Made by Devry. That is Etsy, YouTube, Instagram. You have a blog by that name, even
TikTok.
on Ravelry.
Yeah, I'm Made by
I didn't know.
Devry everywhere.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep, and don't forget to check out our sponsor, Chicken Lady Fiber Arts, at chickenladyfiberarts.com. Use the code PIK Deprogram20 to get 20% off of your purchase from her shop. And the new Make Along has started, the Chicken Lady Fiber Arts Make Along Q2. So make sure that you drop photos to your projects in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put the hashtag for that in the description also, so that you guys can check it out and use it. And please remember to like, comment, subscribe, follow Ann and myself on Instagram, on YouTube and Rumble. And thanks so much for joining us today, Devry. It was a lot of fun having you.
It was so nice to talk to not only people who love the same things that I love, but adults. Have a break and to talk with fellow knitters. And
yeah, I don't usually get to talk to adults randomly during the day, so I get it.
No,
nice.
not normally.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week.